All right. On it. All right, Ola. Bless us. Bless us with your knowledge, please.
Oh, wow. Everybody's on standstill. It's like everyone just did like, you know, Simon Says stop. And that's what it looks like right now. I wasn't sure what's going on.
We can hear you though.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we can hear
me. Well, so I've had this headache all day long, and I'm not sure. Sometimes it comes and it goes. So it's very interesting, you know, with having the times that we're in and all that's happening around us. It gets me so suspicious. We had a helicopter last week swirl around our house and then mysteriously in the nighttime and then disappear. It did like a three circle and then it disappeared. So we're living in interesting times, aren't we? First and foremost, because I want to speak about Indigenous wisdom during this time and how Indigenous wisdom can be such good medicine for us all. I want to do an honor. So good afternoon. Thank you, Cookie, for inviting me to participate, to be part of Proyecto for Vida. I'm really, this is the day we were supposed to meet in person, right?
Yes. And Ola was actually, let me say this because it's recording. Ola was actually supposed to be part of the original Mind Matters workshop, that Project for Vida was doing in Luquillo, but unfortunately, and fortunately, because we got to do it this way, and we got to expand it, COVID-19 happened. So now we're doing it this way, but we get to learn so much more, and we get to give so many more tools and resources to people out there, reach more people. So, you know, it's a blessing in disguise. So yeah, I'll let you continue now.
Sure, it is a blessing in disguise. It's in divine honor. So un poco oración y honor a Madre Tierra, Padre Tierra, antepasados, abuelas y abuelos, guías espirituales, todo lo que gobierna mi trabajo y ideas, la gran divina y gran divino, manifiesto toda la creación, plantas, animales, la gente que quiere despertar ahora, las personas que están dispuestas a alinearse con los.
She froze. Ola? All right, we'll wait for her to come back. I guess she's having Wi-Fi difficulties too today.
Maybe not. Every time I start getting into the real deal stuff on the phone with people that also know about the real deal stuff, the circling helicopters, so to speak, tend to hang up on us. Maybe
she's coming back. There you are.
I don't know what happened, pero estoy aquí.
Todavía. All good.
Okay. Anyway, estamos en mi oración y so I'm going to restart. Una oración y honor para Madre Tierra, Padre Tierra, abuelas y abuelos y guías espirituales. Todo lo que gobierna mi trabajo y mis ideas, la gran divina, manifiesto, toda la creación, las plantas, los animales, la gente que quiere despertar, las personas que están dispuestas a alinearse con los elementos de luz, amor y vida. Honró al pueblo de mi madre, el pueblo de Luya, de Itumbu, de clan de los halcones, las serpientes, y al pueblo de mi padre de Ogori, Nigeria. Es a través de su amor que soy amado y sé que el amor siempre. Lo también quiero honorar a mi madrina taína, Bibi Cucuya, que me adaptó así casi 10 años. Mi adaptación me ha conectando con mi nuevo hogar y me trajo el amor por la tierra de Boriquén. Es un honor estar aquí durante este tiempo, respirar en la ascensión y iluminación. Ashe aho han han katun. So I wanted to just begin with a little honor, and I figure that because a lot of your audience is, well, I speak in Spanglish. I'm not saying my Spanish is all that great, but I'm expecting that if this is going to be recorded, then it may go beyond the boundaries of the Caribbean and or the United States. So maybe I speak in English, and maybe my people in Africa can hear this, because this is a message in this Indigenous Wisdom recording. I just prayed to honor the Earth Mother, the Earth Father, the ancestors and spiritual guides to govern my work and my ideas, the great divine, who's the great manifester of all creation, plants and animals, for the people who are willing to wake up, people willing to align with the elements, the light and love of life. I'm honoring my people, the Luya people of Itumbu, of the great clan of the falcon and the serpent, and my father's people of the Ogori people in Nigeria. And through their lovemaking, I am loved and know love always. I too want to honor my Taino godmother, Bibi Kukuya, who's adopted me 10 years ago with my children, and my adoption has connected me to my new home and brought me to love the land of Boriquén. It is an honor to be here during this time to breathe in the ascension and enlightenment. So the concept of indigenous wisdom for me started, well, it was always there, because we will know why. But first and foremost, for me, the school of indigenous wisdom, well of indigenous wisdom, really began to materialize in the school in 2012 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I had a herb shop there for 7 years, and I started to bring in students. I'm a clinical herbalist, a nutritionist, and I do other things that I love, like music and dance. So I envision herbalism as a modality of health and well-being through our common roots, which is indigenous wisdom. All people have indigenous roots. Some people's indigenous roots are a little farther back than others. And so what is indigenous wisdom in reality? Many talk about indigenous wisdom right now, but indigenous wisdom is conceptualized in identity with the roots of the earth. So people who identify with the roots in the earth and people who live in harmony with it are indigenous people. For me right now, I think of using the word indigenous speaks a lot to people who are Black and brown people who have undergone a lot of oppression, suppression, and depression through colonialism. So we can't not really speak today about indigenous people without addressing colonial ways that have impacted our communities greatly. 500 years old of progressing control and greed over indigenous people is a reality. And for me, Africa, and now in my adopted home here in Boriken, we must understand how our indigenous identity has been cultivated through colonial impacts. Our stories are this: medical colonialism. In medical colonialism, we have seen dismantling of our medicine people, destruction of our sacred plant medicines, and the ways that we did practice our medicines, whether spiritually or in healing practices, that have been replaced with pharmaceutical industries and unnatural medical technologies, or people who call themselves experts. And so this has taken advantage over us. We've become experiments of our bodies have become experimental places. And indigenous people who understand the ways of life differently are not able to benefit from this kind of practice. We also have land colonialism. Land colonialism is where we find that a lot of a massive amounts of land and property that has been exploited over for mineral gain, just for economical gain, but off of the energy of the people who live there. So, gems, oil, we all know the story, but this results in the displacement of indigenous people as well. And then there is the leadership colonialism. This comes in the form of bribing, buying, and exploiting our leaders who allow themselves to be exploited, and then running indigenous people through the illusion of currency and through the illusion of false leadership, which does not support and create the community that indigenous people require to have sustainable and economical working communities. And then there's food colonialism. Food colonialism is controlling access to food, controlling our ways of growing food, and controlling what foods to grow, reducing the medicinal quality, nutritional quality, the diversity and sustainability that our elders knew how to do. They knew how to grow them. They knew what to expect. They knew what seasons were coming. And so our indigenous knowledge has been cut off for so many years, been affected and impacted by food colonialism. Education colonialism, creating things like boarding schools, which I went to for most of my life, systems of controlled learning material, instilling programs of fear in our youth to limit creativity. So our youth grow to become fearful and shameful because of the education that teaches through whether it's subliminal messages of books or programs or the teacher's attitude, limiting critical thinking and the art of philosophy, which we have definitely lost. Our indigenous ancestors had ways to philosophize so that we can understand how to ask questions and improve ourselves and evolve in ourselves. So some of the ways our indigenous ancestors made sure philosophy lasted was through storytelling and poetry and healthy competition. We had ceremonies and competitions that were like seasonal or maybe just for young women or young men or for elders, or there were different masquerades, things like that to help to fortify our sense of imagination. So colonialism, as I've said earlier, has oppressed, depressed, and suppressed all indigenous people until now. And I feel that COVID-19 has been a window of opportunity for all of us to look and to see as a moment to awaken. This truly is a time of ascension. I do believe that as an indigenous wisdom, as an indigenous person, this is a moment where the earth feels different, and it feels like we're entering into a time where, and we're already going there. So there's no, it's not stagnant. We're moving into a time where we need to really make our decisions, because we need to understand that the wise ways are the ways that are going to carry us forward in a healthy manner into the future. And I'll talk a little bit about what those are. But I wanted to just bring up the things about colonialism, because for 500 years, colonialism has impacted us as indigenous people. And it's time for us to not, to wake up from that, and not go for that programming anymore, to deprogram from it, to unschool that. So we need to remember our ways, and we need to live them in our daily lifestyle. So plants, as we know, are some of the answers. As a herbalist, I've been a herbalist, wow, for maybe 15 years. And I feel my personal connection with plants, with the soil, with the particles of soil, cells of plants, the molecules of water, and all that there is to all the alchemical parts of that, the earth, the air, the fire, and the spirit of, I feel that plants are spirit keepers and allies, and they guide us to the universal laws that help us to be better in ourselves, all of us in this planet. It helps us to establish, they help us to establish our roots of being here and being present. And a lot of indigenous wisdom asks us to forgive, because this is interesting that this is happening to me, huh?
Yeah. Okay. I'm having Wi-Fi problems here too, so it's okay.
Okay, no problem. Well, it happens often when I'm doing the even classes on here on Zoom.
Okay.
But I was saying that, you know, forgiveness is so important in the wise ways that indigenous people have lived. We have to do ancestral work, to honor our ancestors, but also to forgive, to ask them to forgive themselves, and also to forgive others, you know. So we have to move ahead from our ways of being that are of the past, of the colonial time. To move forward, we need to work with the art of forgiveness and the art of honoring. And we can do this for our ancestors, because we are our ancestors. We're not here without them. Here in Boriken, what I see a lot is that people have a lot of fears. And I know this comes out of colonial schooling and what has happened on the land. Being in my observation, this land is still under colonial rule. So, and you know, I have to say, my ancestral land in Africa is under colonial rule today, and going into a different kind of colonialism right now. So what we need to do here, I see as Ola Tokumbo, is we need to work on letting go of our fears here. There needs to be a lot of work. I'm calling whoever is watching this video, beyond those who are here, I'm asking and calling that healers, medicine people, all kinds of people, musicians, artists, activists, all people with these talents that Creator has given must learn and come up with ways to help the people let go of the fear. We must do this. We must get into practice to let go of our fears and to find courage. A lot of the fear through shame and pain too, right? For me, as a Black presenting person, dark-skinned Black African presenting person, it's interesting to see that reflected here, because we know this is an island, it's a blend of blood, and that some people more dark than others. And there are some who are ashamed of their African blood. They cover it up. In my presence, it's reflected with whether it's the way that I'm spoken to or looked at. Because of my ancestors, I don't let that deprive me or oppress me or get me, well, it does get me sad for a moment, I have to admit, because I feel sorry, I feel compassion for people like this. So one thing that we need to go into is we need to, here in Boriken, I call everyone here to honor their African ancestors out loud, obviously. Not in the house, not in the casita, you know, in an altar in the corner, esquina, no. Out loud. There has to be an honoring of all those who brought you to this moment with that mix, whether it's more mixed or not, but you have African roots, and it's really time. They are begging you to represent them. Another thing is that if people don't have as much African roots and don't feel connected, there needs to be humility and the space to let, to have accountability for any atrocities ancestors may have had through reciprocity, reparations, or through just being kind, you know, giving the opportunity for people who've been more oppressed to have that space to process their trauma, oppression. And I know now through this moment, these things are coming up because they're coming up for me. So I know that these things are coming up in our moment of isolation, when we can see ourselves better because we're not busy and keeping ourselves busy to ignore the truth that lies within our DNA. This is the time to do that. This is the indigenous wisdom that I'm calling for us all to interact with. So in this quarantine, we can see things, everything at this moment in many ways. We can look at this moment as a time where there may be an overarching agenda, right? The Earth's opportunity to cleanse, perhaps. Yeah, we're not driving out, and so the Earth is cleaning. There could be an economic collapse. Yeah, we are changing the ways that we interact with each other economically. Certainly, there are uncertainties, and so with uncertainties come fear, and that's why I'm addressing fear. If not the biggest thing that we need to work on as people of color, especially because there's already a foundational fear, right? And so with this entire scenario, fear even more. I heard yesterday that through a brother friend of mine who lives in Kamui, he said that there's a couple of people who committed suicide in his community because of fear, not knowing what tomorrow might bring. And I know that if I heard that from my brother, this is a spiritual brother, I know there have got to be many more people, whether on the island or off the island or somewhere, anywhere in the world, who may be going through this process. And so this is an important call of wisdom that I I feel so deep in my heart to express. Remember that we people of color have been programmed to fear for hundreds of years. The Taino people who were met here on this island when ships first landed here, who openly opened their homes and their land and to share, and then were destroyed by disease and greed, have fear, who were killed, who were made to fear through spirituality, because we know that spirituality was very different from what was imposed. And that which has been imposed is carried on today. And it's a fear-mongering way of practicing and connecting with our Creator, the Most High Creator. So we need to learn and retake our blessing of our indigenous ways, that not always, we know that there were indigenous people who are bad. We know that, there's always been good and bad people. But let's take the aspects that are wise and that are gonna serve us and feed our spirit and our soul. Because when we enter fear, we lose our soul. We lose our connection to spirit. And that's what we have. We have soul and spirit. So we need to reclaim that. We have a saying in Africa, from the Ghanaian people. It's a symbol of the bird that faces backward, and it's Sankofa. I'm sure you've heard of that. But Sankofa means moving forward with that wisdom, if you will, claiming that from the past and taking it forward. So let's see some of the, here are some of my sharings of what I feel can help a bit. Kind of like what Jorge was talking about, teas, but in my part, there's a thin line between ceremonial teas, which I think ceremony in itself, even just ceremonial tea, like Jorge is proposing, gathering with friends, creating community around tea, just sitting and talking and sharing, and also expressing one's problems and not feeling, because we, as people of color, we don't like to talk about our problems. We have a saying, and it's across the board. I know it's here as well, because I've heard it here in Boriken, but it's, you don't show your dirty laundry to everyone. You keep that hush, hush, hush inside the house, right? It's that we do that. We need to learn how to trust each other, because that has taught to us through colonialism as well. Find somebody we can trust and speak. Speaking is therapy. We as indigenous people are oral people. We are people who like to talk. We like to pass on stories. We like to tell stories. We like to exaggerate with our hands, with our expressions, with our bodies. We are people who like to be very creative and interact with that creativity in the real time. So we need to get back into that, in the rhythm of our bodies, the rhythm of our soul and our spirit. So I think that plant medicine is one of the ways that we can get back into that, whether it's through teas, whether it's through tinctures like the one I'm taking, which I began with saying that I had a headache, and I've been taking my Passiflora in Canarta, Passiflora here, aquí in Boriken. Very good for headaches, which I have had, it's going. Nervous tension, anxiety, and it's very good for muscle relaxation. So there's Passiflora. In that category, I can put Tulsi. Holy basil is large on the island here. All the mints, Yerba Buena, all the mint family, mentas, Sauco Blanco flores. The Sauco Blanco is very relaxing. Flores de naranja. And the hojas, the leaves are very good too to relax the spirit. And I know that orange water is popular here. So that can serve too, as a bath or as a tea, just a little bit, because it's very aromatic. Melissa, which is in English lemon balm, Very good for us, particularly with that melancholic vibration that we may have at this time, where there's fear or a slight depression. Melissa can uplift the spirit, as well as Tulsi. All of those herbs, and we don't need a lot. We can grow these easy. These are very easy and they propagate very fast. All you have to do is tend to them. You go outside, you water them, speak to them, and tend to them. That's it. And pick a few leaves, a little, like, small handful, half a handful, I would say, and boil some water and put them in the water 15-20 minutes, strain and drink. I recommend crushing them, especially because all the herbs that I just mentioned, Tulsi, menta, passiflora, except maybe passiflora, pero sauco blanco, naranja, melissa, those are aromatic plants, very aromatic. And then we have traditionally always, as indigenous people, we do baños, we do baths. We need to get back in that. Even if we don't have a bath, get a bucket. My grandma, when I was growing up in Africa, we had a mud hut. That's what we lived in. And the bathroom is another, like, mud hut outside of the house. And we'd boil water. We put the water in a bucket or a clay pot, in those days. And you mix your herbs in there and you cut them up, you sing to them, you do your little ritual. And ritual is not a bad word. Let me just say that. Let's drop that, because that's colonial too. A ritual means a method of rhythm and connection with our spirit and that which is in the physical form, like in this case, water and the plants. These are things that we've been spiritually given and gifted by a creator. So this is to bring and to reset. Rituals reset us. So the baños are there to reset us, align us, realign our spirit. We lose our spirit so much when we're in fear, when we're in desperation, which we as people of color tend to be in that all the time. We don't even know what it's like not to be that, right? So get into the baños, cold water, hot water, different energies. And in there, put anamu, which grows here. It's a native indigenous plant from this part of the island into Central America, South America. I love anamu. I've been connecting with anamu for a while and dreaming with anamu. The mints again. So all the mints I mentioned earlier. Albahaca is very sacred. All kinds of albahaca. You can get the albahaca blanco, the albahaca, the purple albahaca, lila. You can get any albahaca types, Brazil. And this will really, really clear, especially energies that, the energy of fear and the energies that feel like they're stuck on you. I love lemon, what do you call it? Lemongrass, limoncillo. I like that a lot too. And limoncillo is very refreshing. And you could mix all of those. If you want something more floral, go ahead and do that. Roses, you can use the sauco blanco flores and the naranja flores. Look, you can have at least 5 or 6 plants outside in your patio, and you can use those in many ways as baños and also as teas. So I really recommend us starting to connect. The point is to connect with the plants, with the earth, nature, and go through the ritual, because you have to get out, collect, do the ceremony, and that takes you out of a mind frame and into another place that you're intending on. To support the immune system and the adrenal system, we have many plants. A few that I like, that I know that we have access to and they're around the island, are Artemisia. This would be Artemisia annua, right? This is Artemisia annua. I forget what it is in English. I just know it as Artemisia here on the island. My goodness. Manzanilla, which is feverfew, is also quite good for the immune system and the adrenal system. Ginger, jengibre. I mean, you cannot go wrong with jengibre. You know, ginger, curcuma, those are both very good for the immune system, excellent for the adrenal system. I'll speak on the adrenal system in a second, and just so people understand what I'm saying when I say adrenal system. Tamarind, the fruit, is a great juice, but it's also great for keeping us to evacuate, making sure we're urinating, and we're also going to the bathroom with our bowel movements very well, because we don't want to clog up. Remember, everything physical is also spiritual. So if we're clogged up and constipated, we're holding on to things that we don't need to, and we need to evacuate it. So tamarind will help with that a lot. And if you look at tamarind anyway, it looks like a colon. I always teach this in my classes, that, you know, you look at the plant, it's a concept called doctrine of signatures. You look at a plant, and the plant is a symbolic of something in that was divinely made in nature. So in this case, tamarind kind of looks like a colon, and all the pits could be, you know, the sections of your colon. So it must be good for the colon, and it is. Andrographis is a herb that I really love as well. It's queen of the bitters. It's used in Ayurveda a lot. Much of my practice is in Ayurveda, but some, and of course, the Andrographis is a very, very bitter herb, but it's also really, 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 really good antiviral. So if you are thinking COVID-19 is a virus that is really a virus, and it is really a virus, then this would be it. But I say any virus, any bacterial, any microbial situation, I would recommend Andrographis. Of course, there's nutritional things that we must do. We must eat let's start to eat what our ancestors ate. Thank goodness. But how about the Taino foods? We must eat those more. We must eat foods that, you know, be aware, kind of like in the tea ceremony. Feel what you're eating. Pay attention. How do you feel after? Do you have a stomach ache? Did you have gas? Did you have an itch? Do you feel all of a sudden your mood is bad? If so, then perhaps you need to rethink about that food you're eating, because certain foods can create certain attitudes that may not be serving for us and our community. So really think about how we're eating and what we're eating. I recommend, again, experimenting with foods that are indigenous to you and your DNA, whatever you feel more connected to. Community. Something I noticed here on the island, I know because we've been through so much, a lot of environmental traumas, from the hurricane to the earthquakes, and even prior to that, there've been traumas, economical traumas. And I know people miss the island, wish they could be here. Some people don't like the island anymore, and, you know, feel their own conclusion as to what the island means to them. I call you to think about Boriken, even if you don't like the island, but not to curse it. Because, you know, if we curse wherever any people, we're cursing ourselves, because we all live on this planet, which is one sphere together. And it's all related. No water is separate. All the waters flow into each other. So I beg you to learn how to create community through your mind by thinking and intending our physical separation. So yes, there may be certain things here on Boriken, if you're in the diaspora, that are that you don't want to return to ever again. I hate Boriken. Well, okay, please change that, because we as people of color, we need to change our stories of our homelands. and we can bless, but doesn't mean that we have to be there. And those who love the island, start to envision the island as you want it to be and how you want to participate with the island, whether it's uplifting the people, whether it's helping to reform care or reform environmental things here, ways here, or the economical ways. Start to envision that. Empower yourself with your capacity of vision. Vision is our way forward, by the way, huh? Because one thing that coronavirus is teaching us is how to do what our indigenous elders did. What they did was they connected in the mind. And this may be a little ahead of what people are ready to hear, but when you listen to this 5 years from now, you will maybe understand, for those who may not. But this is what a part of this pause in our movements is asking us to activate, to use the power of visualizing the inner eye to see and to connect and to bring our soul and spirit there. And I feel that's why whatever you think, if it's, this moment is about the agenda or the cleansing or whatever you think, you're thinking this is about an agenda. They want to vaccinate us, or there's something, agenda, secret agenda that the governments are doing. Well, they cannot take away your spirit. And so if we can get rid of that fear, how powerful can we be as people of color to overcome this moment and not to be enslaved again? Because it's going to be a different kind of slavery. So I do not want to see my people go through that. And that's why my work in Indigenous wisdom is very, very important, and it's in purpose. So let's get there together. I cannot do this by myself, and neither can you. So 5 friends. It says in the Bible, when 2 or more are gathered, the Spirit of God is the strongest. So if we can call upon just 4, 2, 3, more than 2, 3, 4, 5 people to come together and intend strongly with your mind's eye for what you want your world to be, do it. And make sure that it's something that serves all, because again, all waters are connected. So this is something of what I want to share as an exercise, as a solution. I don't like to speak things and then not offer any solutions. Other than the plant solutions, my personal story has not been easy.